So today, Sulojana, what are we going to share?
So we are just going to share about our story. Ours was an arranged marriage, which is not very common, especially in Canada. So we just want to share, how even though we didn't know each other very well at the beginning,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
we've been married for 37
Yeah.
years.
Well, every marriage is an arranged marriage, really. It all depends on who does the arranging. Hello. Okay. Actually, I did a poll on LinkedIn just to see, just from our connections and people who happen to see our post, what percentage of people, got to meet their spouse online, offline, arranged marriage, or other, whatever the other category is. And so we actually had roughly a 3-to-1 ratio of people who met in person, which of course makes total sense because that seems to be the most common way. But the 3-to-1 ratio was actually the one was people who met online, which of course used to be a real oddity.
Yeah, that's true.
Like a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember one time. I can't remember where I was flying from, but there was a young lady sitting next to me, and I was still living in Regina, and she was flying. I'm pretty sure it was from California, all the way to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. And so I said, "Oh, you got family in Moose Jaw?" And she says, "No, I'm actually going to meet my fiance in Moose Jaw in person for the very first time." And I thought, well, that's odd. Okay.
They got engaged.
They met online, got to know each other very well, and got engaged online, and now they're meeting in person. But then I thought, well, that's not really odd because I got engaged after meeting my wife for just a few days, and we didn't even spend all those days together. Okay, so I kind of blew her mind a little bit because she felt like she was doing something very extraordinary. In those days, that would have been extraordinary for most people, but when I told her my story, then it didn't seem that special anymore. But anyway, so we've been sharing a fair bit of teaching until now. So we thought, what, we should let you guys know, how we got started, and um, and and honestly, the reason we're going to share our story today is to give you all hope. Okay, and the hope is, and maybe I'll even go one step further and take away all excuses, because whether your marriage lasts or not has very little to do with how long you knew each other before you got married,
or how you met,
or how you met. As a matter of fact, like many couples today, cohabit, live together before you get married. And statistics are, you can go and check this out if you don't believe me, that the rate of breakup or divorce among couples who live together before marriage is higher than those who do not live together. Okay, and by the way, those statistics have been pretty well the same for 15-20 years, because I remember telling that to couples when they would come for counseling, before they got married, and I was still in Regina, and we left Regina in 2002, end of 2002.
Yeah.
So that's like almost 20 years ago. The statistics were saying that. So in other words, what happened, how long you got to know each other, how you got to know each other, all those things really are not the factors that determine whether you make a go of it or not. Okay, so without further ado, let's tell our story, Sulojana, of how our marriage was arranged by our parents. So let's go back, all the way back
Yeah,
to the year of our Lord, 1983.
83, yeah. August 18 is when we got married.
Let's talk about what happened before we got married.
I was going to say, we probably met beginning of August. Or end of July?
No, not that long. No.
Beginning of August.
Actually, I think it was about 8 days before we got married. So let's tell you a story a little bit more background information. Our family, moved to Canada in 1976. My dad actually came in 1975.
That is Jeeva's family.
Yeah. My family. That's right, I should say my family. Yeah. My family moved here, And so I went to university. I went to University of Waterloo, right here in Ontario, and then went to Queen's Theological College, where I got my Master's of Divinity. And then the United Church of Canada ordained me and sent me out to Saskatchewan. That's how I ended up in Saskatchewan, in a small town called Kincaid, where we were living. Population 300 on a good day when the wind was blowing in the right direction. Okay. And about 150 miles south and west of Regina. Okay.
And
so
when I came, increased to 301.
One, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, they changed the sign the very next day, 301. So we're living in Canada, and my my parents, we had planned to go back to India 7 years after we left. And so my dad, basically said one day, hey, while we're in India, would you like us to arrange your marriage? And now, if you are not brought up in the Indian culture, that would sound like a very odd thing for your parent to say to you. But so even though I was immersed in Canadian culture for 7 years at that time, it didn't really seem all that odd to me, because even though you took the boy out of India, but you couldn't take India out of the boy, right? So I'm very much an Indian at heart, and so I said, yeah, sure, why not? And so my dad contacted someone that is called a marriage broker. Okay, so this a marriage broker basically has a list, and on the list, he or she has a list of families looking for a bride for their sons, and on the other side of the list, there's another column of families looking for a groom, a husband for their daughters. Okay, so it just so happened that
I was on that same list.
Okay,
On the right side.
on the right side. Okay, and so Sulojana's dad and my dad were basically working through the same broker. Of course, our families didn't know each other, and the broker basically looks at the two categories, and in this case it's a man, so he basically is like, okay, I think these two would be a good match. So Sulojana, talk a little bit about what are some ways in which a marriage broker would come to that conclusion. What are some factors they would take into consideration?
So I just want to mention a little bit about my background, since Jeeva mentioned. I was born and brought up in Malaysia. I was there till I was 15. When my dad retired, we moved to India. And I'm from a family of 5 children. The older 2 stayed back in Malaysia. The younger 3, I was the middle child. So we moved to India. And so when when I finished university, which was April of 1983, we got married in August. So 83, then my dad thought, okay, you're getting to that age. I was 25 then. It's time to get married. And so some of the, criteria the parents give the marriage broker, or even sometimes relatives who are looking, whom we have asked to look for a suitable partner, will tell them, like my dad was very strict, strict to the extreme. Anyways, we turned out well, so which is good. So my dad said it should be a Christian family, and somebody who doesn't smoke, no drinking, no addictions. Yeah. So that was the second thing. And the other thing they look at is education. I don't think my dad was looking for high, educated. But they want you to match, because I went to university also. So they want to find somebody either the same level or maybe a little higher.
Yeah.
So those are the things I thought he told him. He might have said more things, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also dowry involved. Okay, so they talk about those kind of things.
Yeah.
How much you're going to give. It can be sometimes it can be property, it can be money, cash,
jewelry,
all included.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how the broker, like the go-between, like that Jeeva talked about. That's how he thought. Okay, our families could maybe meet and talk, and first the parents will meet.
So one of the things like folks need to realize is that as much as two individuals get married, in India, it's very much two families coming together. Okay, and things have changed today. So this is not the way all marriage just happen in India anymore, from what we know. However, generally speaking, Indian children, we grow up learning to trust our parents' judgment on these matters. Okay, so two things happen. First of all, we trust our parents' judgment that they would know best, and they would make sure that when they find a suitable life mate for us, that they would find somebody that that we would be well matched with, that would be suited to live with. Okay, the second side of it is that it kind of takes the pressure away from us as children trying to find the right person. Okay, which of course we see happening a lot in other cultures, where you arrange your own marriage. Quite often that can put a lot of pressure on you. You want to find the right person because you don't want to make a mistake, and that's why a lot of people want to live together first to make sure they didn't make a mistake. They live together for a few years, then get married, and then they find, oh my goodness, it's not working out. I guess maybe I didn't find the right person after all. Okay, that's not the issue. We're going to get that in a minute, okay? Because that's not how marriage works. Hello, okay? Just tuck that away for now, and I'll hold you in suspense for a while we explain what makes the marriage work, okay?
And I want to add one more thing. And also, when you're young, your emotions get involved. Like I can look at Jeeva, and I don't look at anything else. Just his looks. You fall in love with with the looks. So when your parents are involved, I'm just saying, why arranged marriages even today work well if you work it. Not just this thing. The parents look at something at a different level. They are more matured. They are looking at things at a completely different level.
I guess a word that we could use is they're looking for the character as well,
the personality.
As a matter of fact, what we found out afterwards is that when Sulojana's dad, when he found out a little bit about our background, and my mom used to be a teacher at one of the prominent high schools in our area in India. And so Sulojana went to a school which was also part of the same system. And so he actually went to her principal's house, because her principal and my mom used to teach together at a school called Dati Girls High School in Nagarkoil in India. And so he went and checked with her. Hey, can you tell me a little bit about this Jeeva character, this Jeeva's character?
Yeah, that's right. They check it all out, just like when you guys are dating, check out everything. So our parents do the checking for us. And
again, maybe there's a little bit of a teaching point there, is that in the beginning, you may be attracted to each other, at a very physical level, at a very visceral level. Like the whole expression that we use here about falling in love, is very much, an emotional response, right? You very seldom find somebody say, well, I fell in love with this character. Okay. Like that's not how it happens. Then you discover things about somebody's character, and then, you may be drawn to somebody by their looks, but what will keep you going in that relationship is their character. Is how they treat you. How they treat other people, right? How they respond in situations, where there is some pressure, when something negative happens. Like these are really what determine someone's character. But see, with us, because our parents kind of do all that kind of digging and so on. And I'm not going to say that all. I'm not going to say all parents do that. There are arranged marriages that happen because people just like some for example, parents of daughters might want I want my daughter to marry a doctor, an engineer, or certain professions. I want my daughter, or my son to marry someone who's also like a doctor, a professional, who has 2 degrees, who has this kind of wealth, these kind of assets that they'll bring into the marriage. So I'm not going to say that those kind of things don't come into play. What we're saying is, in our case, that was like not the case, not the story at all. That was not really a consideration. Our parents really wanted to make sure that that they would find a partner for their child, who would be well matched, at the education level. And one of the reasons why education level is important is so that you can converse, you can
Exactly.
communicate with each other, because we've seen that happen.
Same level.
Yeah, where people get married to someone else, whose education level is not quite there. They're not matched, quite evenly. And I'm not saying that will never work, but it makes communication very, very difficult. If you cannot relate to your partner at a certain level, right? Yeah. And same thing with faith. Your faith, is very, very important.
Yes. Yeah.
Like sometimes, I'm not going to say that interfaith marriages don't work. Don't get me wrong, because we've seen people make them work beautifully. However, things go a lot more smoothly.
Better, yeah, so much better if you have the same faith.
Yeah.
It's good to talk about those things even before you get married, especially when you meet somebody, as it happens today. Those are the things you need to talk about. You have to think ahead, because you're going to bring up your children. If it's a different faith, how are you going to bring it up?
Because I was a pastor in a congregational setting for over 35 years. And so, one of the things that very commonly happened, in the church settings, at least where I was, is you would find, for the most part, it was women, who are married to men who did not share the common faith. And so, like something as simple as praying together, husband and wife praying together, which is something that we stress, tremendously in our marriage mentorship, and which, like we've been doing, fairly regularly for a few years now, at least. Like that kind of stuff couldn't happen in those marriages. One would come to church on their own. When they had children, like I still remember, because our denomination practiced infant baptism, where there were certain times when one of the parents would show up to church for the baptism. As soon as the baptism was over, they were gone, because they didn't have any other interest, in the church. And so sometimes that became a point of contention, in those marriages, because of the at the faith level, they were not evenly matched. The Bible calls it, evenly yoked, And so anyway, our parents in an arranged marriage, make sure that those kind of issues don't cause a problem. All right. So let's fast forward to the early part of August. So we're in India for a vacation, and we get this news that here's a young woman in a small town called Marthandam, in about 20 miles from where we lived,
in Tamil Nadu, India.
Yeah, that is a good match according to our broker. Okay, so now comes the big day. All right. So our parents basically arranged for us to meet each other.
One more thing, even I was growing up, it's probably the same with your family. Our parents, kind of instill in us, there is no word in our dictionary called divorce. And this is how we were brought up. So no word in our dictionary called divorce. They might word it a little differently, but that's how, so once you get married, it's a commitment. It's a lifelong thing.
Yeah.
And that has been, instilled in our hearts and minds ever since little, right?
Yeah. So okay. Now, so let's forward to the big day.
August 18.
No. Oh. This is before.
Oh.
You're in a hurry to get married here. Let's meet first.
Okay.
So we show up at Sulojana's place, just my mom and dad and I, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, just the three of us came and met her dad and her stepmom, and after some chit chat and a little bit of coffee and stuff, then in walks the bride to be, the prospective bride.
And you had to ask permission, right? You wanted to talk for 15.
Yeah, and by the way, even though the parents arrange the marriage, in most cases, I'm not going to say in all cases because that would not be right. In most cases, the children have veto power. In other words, if I had said to my parents, I don't think so, Dad, Mom, then they would have said, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
And same thing with Sulojana. If she told her dad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They'd probably ask, well, why not? But that's about it. So you're not forced to marry somebody that your parents arranged for you.
Mhm.
All right. And so one of the things that, because we've been telling you how much Indian children trust their parents' judgment
Mhm.
in picking a partner for them, that a lot of times people don't actually meet. Or didn't meet,
Yeah.
I should say, in those days. Things have
Yeah.
changed now.
Things have changed.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So-
ours this is about 37 years
Yeah.
ago.
So there was no internet, no social media. Like these days, people chat back and forth. They see each other on FaceTime and
Or even
Messenger
to go on
and
your
so-
Facebook and check you. You know?
yeah. We didn't have that kind of a luxury in those days. All right. And so and this is partly, one of the things, because I was already in Canada for 7 years. I was kind of familiar with the Western way of doing things. I said to my parents, you know what, like at some stage during this time that we're together, like I need some time alone, with this Sulojana girl. And so we can have a chat, kind of get to know each other, ask a few questions and so on. And so my parents had to negotiate that, because that was not really common. You would just usually meet, say hi, and quite often the prospective bride would actually bring some, something for to eat and so on. And so it was basically that was the extent of the meeting.
Mhm.
You kind of saw each other in the flesh, and then it was really, again, families arranging the marriage.
Yeah.
All right. And so
we met for about 15 minutes.
Yeah. Which they thought was very, very long.
Especially my dad, knowing that he's
Why
very strict.
do you want to meet with you for? Be that long for? Okay. And so and I'm thinking, well, that's not really long enough. But let's fire away some questions, and I need to give her an opportunity to also ask any things that that were on her heart, that she could not really get an answer for through her dad. Go between dad, broker, our
Right.
family, then go back. And so I thought, okay, let's just meet face to face and have a conversation.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So do you remember the conversation? What all happened in those 15 minutes?
There were a few things Jeeva told me. He told me, it gets cold in Canada, right? I thought, oh, cold. In India it rains and it gets a little chilly and people get sweaters on. So I thought, okay, cold. Yeah, I can handle.
By the way, we want to define chilly. Okay. Daytime highs in centigrade would be 29, 30 degrees, or in the even much higher in the 30s.
Yeah.
Okay, which for those of you familiar with Fahrenheit, we're talking 80s, maybe 90s. So chilly would be like 70, 72, 23, 24 degrees centigrade would be chilly in India.
Yeah.
Okay, so just so you put it in perspective. Okay, so that's for what for Sulojana
Mhm.
was actually cold.
Yeah. So I didn't.
So I had to kind of
understand.
scare her a little bit by saying it actually goes down to minus 30 degrees, then 35, and sometimes even 40, where I'm at. And of course, I'm also speaking Swahili to her.
Yeah, I didn't understand the thing.
Yeah, you couldn't really fathom that,
No,
right?
no, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else? Yeah, Jeeva asked me if I knew how to cook, and
Tell the truth. Tell the truth. What did you actually say?
I told him yes.
But that was a bold-faced lie. Okay, now there was a good reason why Sulojana,
Yeah,
told me that answer. Tell them an answer.
I I didn't. I knew how to boil an egg, cook a few things. So, and also I thought there'll be a waiting period, to get my visa. So it all works out. I'll have time to learn how to cook.
Yeah.
So I just told him, yes, I know how to cook.
So I'm kind of just fast forwarding for a minute. When she finally arrived in Canada, one of the most precious possessions she brought with her was a notebook that had all these recipes. And all those recipes showed up in the notebook after we got married, after I came back to Canada. So she learned how to cook. So when she came to Canada, she actually knew how to cook. So it was the true answer.
Yeah.
But I found out afterwards that she actually didn't tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help her God. When I asked her the question, and you know how to cook. Yeah. So one of the things that I had to let's know, in addition to the cold, which was a reality of life in Canada, was everyday life. Because in India,
right.
labor at that time, was actually very, very cheap. And so a lot of middle class families, and that's what we would have been considered in India, middle class families, could easily afford some additional help. Somebody would come in, most of the time it was younger, women, young girls, who were, not in school, who would come and help with the cleaning, cooking, that type of thing. Yeah, and so that was common, and so I need to let Sulojana know that when you come to Canada, you're it and I'm it. We don't get any extra help.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to do all these things on our own, and so just to prepare for the reality of life in Canada, and she was totally happy with it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And we were 4 girls and 1 boy in our family, my siblings, and so my dad made sure we all knew how to cook, clean, those kind of things. So doing housework wasn't a difficult thing or big chore for me.
Yeah.
So it was okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So so pretty much we just talked about a few of those things.
Yeah.
In the conversation. And Sulojana told me afterwards she was actually worried that because like she was a relatively new Christian.
Yes.
At that time, and
right.
I'm already a pastor, even though I was a young pastor at that time. I'd been ordained for just over a year at the time that we met. She was a little concerned that during the interview I might ask her some questions from the Bible.
I would have failed. Yeah. Because I was really a new Christian, getting kind of started.
Yeah.
But God was there.
Yeah.
And then what else? I think you maybe asked me if I sang, and I said no, I don't sing.
Yeah. So I thought, this is not one of those pastor wife couples that's going to stand up in front and I play the guitar and she sings. Oh, yeah. So anyway, we just wanted to get a sense of each other's personalities, and I found at that time that she was really very happy-go-lucky, kind of a carefree character, right? Yeah. She was very loosey-goosey and fun-loving, which I picked up right away, which was important for me, right? Yeah. Because as you can tell, we both have a lot of fun together. We tease each other, and in a good way, of course. And I just have a wicked sense of humor, and so I wanted to make sure that she appreciated that.
I like that.
And could get along with that. And so really, the 15 minutes went by very, very fast. And so after that, we left. Her family expected us to give them an answer right away. But I backed off a little bit. I wasn't quite ready to say yes, right? And I wanted to.
You wanted to check out a few other girls.
That is not true. Okay. I wanted to.
It happens. Just like my parents, they went through a few guys.
Yeah, tell them the truth. No. I was number 6 on the list, something like that, right? Yeah, you had a few other people check you out.
Yeah, exactly.
So you assumed that I was going to do the same thing too. Okay, but really, my dad didn't have a long list of people to check out. There was a friend, a high school friend of his, whose daughter they thought might have been a match. But it wasn't like a formal kind of a thing that we did. But anyway, I just felt, hey, this is a big decision. I'm making a decision that I'm committing the rest of my life into live with this person. And so I need to just, step back a little bit, pray, get some, talking over some people, especially with my family. And then we'll give a decision. So I think it was maybe 2 days, 3 days later. Yeah. We sent out the carrier pigeon. We actually sent a message with the broker. So the broker went and said, yes, it's a match. let's work out the details. And so they worked out the details, like Sulojana said earlier about dowry and that kind of stuff, which I didn't get involved in at all. That was something the parents worked out. And I don't believe there were any negotiations on our side. I think my dad said, we just need enough to cover the wedding expenses, something along those lines. And bingo, we got the date set and had an engagement, which, by the way,
Well, you came in between one.
once to see you.
Yeah.
But so this is the other thing in India. In our tradition, is that there's this formal engagement.
Mhm.
Now, in the Bible, sometimes you see the word betrothal, that somebody was betrothed to somebody. So engagement, in North America, is a very private event, right?
Mhm.
And so you
That's
just meet with your beloved, and generally speaking, the guy gets down on his knees and says, "Will you marry me?" Pulls out a ring. If she likes the size of the ring. Just kidding. Okay. She says yes, and it's a very private event. I mean, these days, of course, you take a photographer with you to capture it so you can plaster it all over Facebook. But in those days, for the most part, people did it very privately. But in India, an engagement is actually a public declaration
Mhm. Mhm.
that these two families are, committing their children
Mhm.
to marry each other.
That's right.
Yeah, so we had engagement just a few days before the wedding. I can't even remember how many days.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very close.
Yeah. And then
to the wedding day.
Yeah, and then we got married on August the 18th of 1983.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sulojana had to wait about 6 months.
6 months. Yeah.
To get her visa, and she came to Canada, and
it was in February 1984 that I came to Canada. Finally all the visa and everything cleared, and I got here February 2nd or 3rd.
Yeah, and then you came to Saskatchewan. First, she landed in Montreal. My parents met her, and of course, now Sulojana finally gets to experience
the cold,
the real cold.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how much snow there was in Montreal. Yeah.
And so they'd already bought a coat, for her to wear, a down-filled coat.
Yeah.
Okay, and boots, which you had never worn in your life before.
No, I was thinking, what is all this for?
Yeah, what do we need that for, right? Yeah. And then she found out, and then she came to Saskatchewan. Okay, so she thought Montreal. My parents were living near Kingston at the time in Ontario. If she thought that was cold, then welcome to the prairies. Okay, and so the first few months of our marriage, the first year of our marriage, was
we have to mention a little story. So Jeeva picks me up from the airport in Regina, and like he said, he had a small place called Kincaid, 300 people. So we were driving from Regina to this small place, 2.5 hours. So through the prairies, right? So both sides, of the highway is just fields. All you see is fields for miles and miles. And, one house here, one house there. So after, I think it was about an hour, half an hour, I turned to Jeeva. I was really quiet. I'm looking around. I thought, nobody lives here. So I looked at him and I said to him, where are all the people? And in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't think this was a good choice. Nobody lives here. And I thought, no wonder.
Where's he taking me?
Yeah, where's he taking me? No wonder maybe all the girls said no, maybe. And here, I don't think I made the right choice. Anyways, so then he said, well, you'll see some people. And I thought, okay, I hope so.
So finally, we landed in the metropolis of Kincaid, Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Population 301 with Sulojana.
Mm-hmm. And the most exciting thing that happens is every afternoon I see the train go by.
But we were in a very, very warm community, and those of you folks, anybody from Saskatchewan or the prairies or the American Midwest, small towns, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody, and which can be good, or it can also be knows each other mean they are nosy. Okay. And so, we had a great support in the community. And the amazing thing was, in that small community with just 300 people, there were 2 other Indian families.
Yeah, that's right.
One was the high school teacher. The other one was the local doctor, and both of them also both of their men. Both of them had wives, who had gone through exactly the same experience
Yeah,
as
that's
Sulojana.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
arranged marriage.
arranged
Yeah,
marriages,
yeah.
and the husbands were already here, so they came later, joined them. Yeah,
So that was a big help. So, coming to Canada for the first time and starting in a small place, that's probably one of the best things, that can happen. And everybody was so welcoming, so friendly. And yeah, it was a good start.
Yeah.
Good start.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so we went through a lot of growing pains, right?
Yeah.
Because we did not have the courtship period, that a lot of you folks have. And even if you're meeting each other online, you still have that courtship period online. For us, we didn't have that, and so really the first few months of marriage, is when we're getting to know each other, and also 3 weeks after Sulojana arrived in Canada, we had to deal with a very serious situation.
Yeah. My dad passed away, and I couldn't go back, and so that was hard. Yeah.
And so again, the community was amazing. The people in the church,
That's right.
really reached out and gave Sulojana that the support that she needed, to cope with that crisis. And then shortly thereafter, Sulojana got pregnant. We're fast workers; we couldn't wait. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. The other thing is, people brought food, cards, gifts, fruits, lots of love.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that helped.
Yeah. But the thing is, we still had to do life on our own, just the two of us, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then our daughter was born. I came in February. She was born in December. So, like Jeeva said, we were fast workers.
Okay. So we'll just kind of stop there for now, because we said we would talk about how our marriage was arranged, what happened in the 15 minutes. And if you joined us late, you have to go back and listen to the earlier part of the recording. And find out all the juicy details. Okay, but friends, what we wanted to tell you is that the two of us, as Sulojana said, we started our marriage, with the understanding that we would be together for life no matter what. The way Sulojana phrased it is that divorce was not in our dictionary.
Yeah.
Okay, and
the commitment,
right?
The commitment with which you come into the marriage, you're going to work it out.
Yeah.
You're going to have challenges. That's how, your parents tell you.
Yeah.
But you're going to work it out.
Yeah. And what, this is what I said this in a LinkedIn post and Facebook post, I think earlier today, is that no matter how you come together, how you meet, that's not what's going to make your marriage work or not. Don't sweat it too much about how you meet. Okay. It's how you meet each other's needs after you get married. That's going to determine whether your marriage works or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Exactly. And so you need to, if you want to meet each other's needs, then you need to get to know each other, at that level. So in the beginning, it may be like a physical attraction, or somebody's position, what they did, doesn't matter what actually initially attracted you to each other and brought you together. You really need to get past that surface attraction, this falling in love, to get to the place of not even being in love, because being in love can be a feeling, but actually loving each other. Okay, that is the real test. And so when somebody says, as we mentioned earlier, we're marriage mentors. We have couples coming to us usually at the point where they're about to break things off, and probably headed to a divorce. At that point, it's like, okay, let's just give it one more shot and meet with this couple and see if they can help us get us back on track. And we see people tell us all the time, we love each other. And it's like, okay, if you really love each other, how is your partner experiencing that love from you? Okay, and very clearly, yes, you do say that you love each other, but what you mean by that is not something that you can actually have some evidence to show that you love, that you actually there is love between you. Okay, And when one of the main things about love is selfless. Okay, especially from the Christian tradition, like we need to, we're commanded to love each other the way that God loves us, the way that Jesus loved us and laid his life down for us. And so we when we get to know each other at that level, and we serve each other, like, and then you make the marriage work.
Yeah, yeah. Like Jiva said, you begin to be selfless. Like in the beginning, like Jiva said, I brought this recipe book. So, and I found out from his parents what he liked, because I spent a few days with them in Ontario. Jiva was in Saskatchewan, so found out what all he liked. So I made sure I had all these recipes, and I cooked everything he liked the way I knew how to cook it. And then I learned things from him also. So, I was like, willing to do anything, for this new husband that I just married. And same thing with Jiva, he was doing the same.
Yeah.
And
one of the things I learned not to say was, but my mom doesn't make it quite the same way. Doesn't taste like my mom's chicken curry. Okay. So I knew I had enough brains not to say those kind of dumb things. Okay. Instead, just to appreciate, because guess what? My mom was not going to cook for me for the rest of my life. Okay. Of course, these days, I do a lot of cooking too. In those days, I hardly did any cooking, even though I knew. I was just so happy that I could pass the baton off to somebody else to let her do the cooking. And Sulojana was like still very much steeped in the Indian culture at that time. Yeah. And she wouldn't actually let me do dishes.
Yeah. That's one of the negative, not negative thing. I told him, oh, don't come to the kitchen. I will do all the dishes. That wasn't the right thing.
Yeah, that's why I remember those tips very fondly and think of them as being in paradise. And I still pray, Lord, bring back those good old days, will you please? Okay. Because these days, sometimes I find myself in the kitchen more than you do. Of course, I'm retired from active work, and Sulojana is still working.
And you love to cook.
Plus, I've learned to love to cook. Yeah, that was not the way in those days. I mean, I cooked because I had to eat. Now we eat because I also love to cook. All right. Yeah. So anyway, friends, it's a matter of like getting to know each other, serving each other. And one of the things that I did right off the bat, that Sulojana can tell you, how many times in your lifetime, in 37 years of marriage, have you actually used a vacuum cleaner?
I can count the number of times.
She can count the number of times on the fingers of one hand. Okay, because I was used to doing that, living on my own. And so that was something that was a good trade-off, because I kept the house clean that way, and Sulojana took care of a lot of the stuff in the kitchen at that time. So we learned to divvy up some responsibilities, as we went along.
Especially when the kids were little, then there was more work. So it was good that Jiva can help out.
But that's for another session. Okay. So we did have a couple of questions. We just want to look at those questions.
I don't have my glasses.
Okay. So, we got people from Iowa and from Regina, from Ontario, Canada. So do you think it is wise to date online? Being a Christian, I found that difficult. Okay. All right. So we did say at the beginning of our session today that when we did the survey, roughly 3 times as many people meet in person as do online. So people meeting online and getting married is becoming more of a reality today, right? Yeah. And so in some ways, courtship, whether it's online or offline, in person, really it's the same. I mean, it's the same in the sense that to get to know each other, yes, when you're in the same physical space, you can like meet in person, go to restaurants together, do things together, and so on. But the kind of conversations that you have with each other, that how you get to know each other, it's still, you have to ask the same questions. Because we find people, who've dated each other for a long time, for years, who sometimes even live together and still don't know each other that well, because you haven't brought up the deep issues. You haven't really, like bared your soul, to each other. People, your spouse has no idea of, the stuff that we went through, until you met each other. and like, and sometimes people keep secrets from each other,
Mhm.
before they get married, and then all of a sudden you get married, and then stuff comes out of you, and eventually, like, Jesus is something very wise. He said that, like, there's nothing that can remain hidden. Eventually what is hidden is going to
Come
be
to life.
shouted from the rooftops, is what he said.
Mhm.
Okay. And so the transparency that you develop with each other before you get married, and don't that's what we tell couples, don't be afraid to ask the hard questions before you get married. As a matter of fact, I just got a message from somebody that we've mentored, and basically, in the process of dating, ran into a bit of a situation, and Slojana looked at each other and said, "It's good that this stuff is coming out before they make a commitment to each other
Mhm.
in the dating season,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
now you're discovering some things about each other. You're discovering how different you are and how you perceive things, and so you can get deep down to
Mhm. Mhm.
below the surface, right?
Right. Now,
Yeah.
what was the question?
So,
Ranjit?
do you think it is
I
wise to
don't have
date
my
online?
glasses.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I wouldn't say that like you shouldn't date online, but because whether you date online or offline, it really has a lot to do with how
Oh,
deep you go in your relationship.
exactly.
Okay? Yeah.
Exactly. And then some of them, here's the thing, the reality, people find out the spouse has some sort of addiction after they get married, right? So alcohol, I don't know, or pornography, or smoking, those kind of things. These are the things you want to kind of bring it out to the open, find out before, rather than finding it out after you get married. We've run into people
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Situation. So I was just thinking the distance courtship, those, you just want to make sure you get to know that person.
And that's what we said, like, about arranged marriage. Like doesn't
Parents
matter,
do the checking.
but doesn't matter, how you come together in marriage. It's really how you go from that point onwards. And here's the number one thing. Like, whenever couples came to me to ask me to marry them in my days as a pastor, the first question I always ask them is, are you guys at the point right now that you want to spend and you're willing to make a commitment to spend the rest of your lives with each other? In other words, do you have that commitment? And if somebody waffled even a wee bit, like, I would tell them to back off and wait a little bit longer, because you have to come to that conclusion. Now, like we said, like, we just knew each other for a few days. There are some people whose courtship is very, very short. People make a commitment very, very short time, and some people take a long time. It doesn't matter. When you come to that commitment, once you make that commitment, once you're ready to make that commitment to each other, like, you need to stick to it. And and yes, people will not always tell you the truth. Just like she told me she could cook. Okay. But at least she was willing to do something about it before we got together. Right. Yeah.
I was thinking about that too. If you find out afterwards, if your partner is willing to work on it and take care of that addiction, those kind of things, then it's not bad. You can work it out. But so anyways, it just came to me. So
yeah. So friends, we just want to we wanted to share our story with you a little bit, so you get to know us and how we got together. And and here we are, 37 plus years later. And you know what, like, we've gone through like lots of ups and downs over the years.
We have had our share of challenges. And I think what is important is through those challenges, we were together. We were fighting it together. There were financial challenges, with children. When you're bringing up a young family, they are grown up now, and thank God they are all doing well. But teen years, you go through challenges, and what else? Health challenges. And I'm glad we were a team. If you are a team and you can face those challenges together and not fight each other, then that is a big thing, big step. And there are other things, the faith, of course, our
Yeah.
faith, God being the center of our marriage.
Yeah.
I feel like that's so important.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, just to kind of finish up, we've gone a little bit longer than we normally would.
Oh,
Is
wow.
friends, you need to, when you get to the place that you're going to make the lifelong commitment to each other, and you make that commitment, like you don't back off. Like you have made that promise to someone, and they have
in the
trusted you
presence of God.
in the presence of God. If you got married, in the church or in a faith setting, and so like you need to do everything in your power, to honor that promise, and and back up your words. Okay. And we also realize, painfully realize that there are situations, where when one person does not want to carry on, then it puts the other person in a very, very awkward position, and somebody initiates a divorce, breakup. Like you're helpless because we all have free will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The other thing too, if there is abuse, I don't think Jesus wants somebody to be in an abusive situation where your life is in danger. Then that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a difficult situation. There are situations like that also, right?
But the main thing is that like you need to do everything in your power to honor that commitment that you made, the covenant into which you entered. All right. And so that's basically what we do. So we're just going to finish a little bit, with how we began. We bill ourselves as marriage mentors, and our mission, is really to mentor married couples from the brink of breakdown to breakthrough in as little as 10 weeks, and we guarantee results. Okay. So if you're in that place, and we don't, in a public forum like this, you cannot, you don't feel free to talk about all these things. So send us a private message, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, wherever you're watching us, send us a message, and hey, if there's some way that we can help you, that's what we're here for. By the grace of God, we've been able to help a number of couples since we started doing this, go from that place. They come to us totally broken, at the point of giving up on their marriages, and God's been able to pull them through, through the process that we use. And so we don't really take credit for that. We're just basically people who provide the process, the guidelines, the way to move from one thing to the next. And so so that's basically all today. We will be back again next Wednesday. Every Wednesday we're on like clockwork, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We're here, and please connect with us. If you would like to stay informed about what we do, about some of the posts that we come up with, some of the teachings, and there are lots of teachings that we do outside of what we post on Facebook and LinkedIn. You only get them if you're on our email list. And so go to thesams.ca. The website is there, www.thesams.ca, and download a free report that we put together called Your Marriage Can Survive Any Crisis. If you're in a crisis situation, you'll find some really good stuff in it. Or you may know somebody else, whose marriage is in a bad way. Tell them about it. Send them to that website and let them download that, read through it, read through our website. And if they need us to help, then there's an application form that you can just click and apply to us. And once we get the application, we like both the husband and the wife to apply. So we get both sides of the story. We'll arrange a consultation with you, do an assessment, and we'll take it from there. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. We're just going to finish with prayer. So Sulojana, go for it.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this time, and thank you for each and every one that was present, Lord, and listening to our sharing, our testimony, and also those who are going to listen to this recording in the future. Father, I pray that our story, our arranged marriage will give hope. Whatever we shared, Lord, whatever we have learned and shared will give hope and will give even some tips for some couples or individuals, so that they can benefit and they can work on their marriage, they can restore their marriage. And we thank you and praise you, Lord, for all the words you spoke through us. And I pray a blessing upon each and everyone listening, each and everyone that are going to listen to our recordings. And I pray a blessing upon couples. Father, you brought them together. If there are challenges, Father, you're the solution. You're the first one we want to run to. And because you have an answer to all our challenges. And we thank you and praise you, Lord. And if there's anyone we can help, that you want them to connect with us, that we can work with them and restore their marriage. Father, I pray that you will make the connection. You will nudge them to go to our website and take that initial step and fill out the application. And Father, I know you will do the rest. We thank you and praise you, Father, for all your blessings, for all your goodness, for all your greatness. And you've been a good Father. We give you all the praise, honor, and glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
And to all of our American friends that are watching us, we want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. That be thankful for all your blessings that God has bestowed upon you. And especially the blessing that He has given you in terms of your marriage, your family, your other relationships,
and your country.
And your country, and the freedom that we have, in North America, in the U.S., here in Canada, and any other countries that you might be watching from. So God bless you all. We will see you again next Wednesday. And friends, please again share this with others, because even the recording will be there forever pretty well, and so people can watch and be blessed. Thank you once again. God bless. Bye-bye.
Good night.